Good morning, everybody. Happy Wednesday. Hope your day is off to a good start because yesterday was not the greatest of days for the Seahawks. It wasn't all bad, and the stuff that happened isn't necessarily a huge deal, but nevertheless, yesterday was a little bit of I'm not going to call it a terrible day, but some unfortunate things happened. And we did a stream last night where we talked about most of it, but I just want to run it down real quick. Getting the opportunity to discuss these things with hundreds of other people is obviously useful to help really synthesize how to actually feel about something objectively. So those streams always help people, I think, kind of look at things from different angles to provide a more broad perspective. So yeah, just to run down what's going on here. The first thing, the first big thing that happened yesterday was that our prospective starting quarterback for the Thursday preseason game, the preseason game tomorrow against the Bears, is not going to be playing because he has tested positive for COVID. Drew Lock has tested positive for COVID and therefore cannot play and also can't really do much of anything for the next at least 5 days. So hopefully it's just the 5 days. But not only does this push him out of the preseason game that he was going to start, but it also takes away valuable practice time, meaning that he is not going to be as able to make progress towards taking the starting job from Geno because as of right now, I think Geno is ahead, and now he's really ahead. Like these are important reps, important opportunities for Drew. If Drew had played really well against the Bears, and Geno had, just performed to a lesser level, that may have been the moment where he pulled ahead, and then Locke could just maintain his lead in the last preseason game. Now you're looking for a situation where Locke may end up needing to play extremely well in the last preseason game, and he might also need Geno to not play well tomorrow, which, hey, I mean, it's not like I want that, of course, but my point is that's what it's going to take for Drew Lock now. So what was an honest quarterback battle where it seemed like there was actual competition with the best man winning, now Geno kind of gets it by default. Now, yesterday in practice, Drew Lock played really poorly and Geno played great, according to everything I read. So maybe that was going to happen anyway, but this is still unfortunate. So we got Geno, and that's it's not like Geno is Nathan Peterman. It's not like Geno is completely inept out there. I understand these things. I do maintain that Locke is more interesting. Locke has more upside, more potential, and he just makes this offense have some extra dimensions that Geno doesn't. But it's not like the ultimate difference in terms of actual results is likely to be that. You're not going to see anything massive different, I don't think. And one thing that I said a few times in the stream last night, and I think it bears repeating, this is not the stuff we need to be getting super wrapped up in. Drew Lock versus Geno Smith is kind of a temporary sideshow on this team. Neither guy has great odds to be here next year, I think. Drew Lock is a free agent, and Geno, he is under contract next year, but it's easy to it's easy to get out from that contract next year, unless one of those guys either breaks out or at least manages to root themselves in as like a long-term backup. They're not going to be here next year, and even if one of them, like Geno, is, they're not going to be very likely to be starting. The things on this team right now that really matter long term for this team and their attempts to get back to the winner's circle, it's stuff like the offensive line, the pass rush, the secondary. This quarterback battle is just for this year in all likelihood. So, yeah, Locke will not be gaining any ground over the next several days. And I think it's reasonably safe to say that Geno's going to take that starting job now for at least week one. And logically speaking, probably for at least a couple weeks after that, unless he's truly terrible, which I don't think he will be. He might be bad. More realistically, I just think he'll be passable, like okay. So that's, I think, what we're looking at. But this was not the only bad news. I also want to draw attention to this, which this started out relatively minor, I thought, but it seems like it might be blowing up into something a little more significant. This quote from Condotta basically lays out the details. Ken Walker III is dealing with a hernia issue. Carroll says he doesn't yet know what that means. Curhan's also out with back spasms, by the way, but that's a relatively minor thing compared to the Ken Walker thing. So, at first, my impression was, well, it's going to be something that keeps him out for a few days of practice in the preseason game. But it's apparently, according to a lot of the things that I'm hearing, significant enough to where he's going to miss some time. As in, possibly, I've heard the first month of the regular season, if this is a real thing. If this is as significant as some people seem to be theorizing. So, not good. I will say this. I've said it before that Ken Walker is not the running back for this year. He's the running back for the next several years. We don't need him so much this year. We need him in 2023, 2024, 2025. If we decide to keep him after that, then on and on. But this year, this is Rashad Penny's year. Ken Walker, we don't need to put a huge workload on him. We don't need to give him the ball 30 times a game. We don't need to even be giving him the ball 20 times a game, really. We should be taking it easy on him to make sure that we don't overwork him his rookie year and maintain the most able-bodied running back possible going into the future years when it's going to matter a lot more, when we won't have Rashad Penny. But I still wanted him to play. I still wanted him to be out there getting a few snaps a game. I still wanted him to be the backup. And don't get me wrong, we have the players to easily, okay, maybe not easily, but we have the players to keep it together while Walker's rehabbing. DJ Dallas has had a great preseason game and has generally looked like he's ready for a little more work. Travis Homer, the dude has come a long way. I'm not saying that we don't have the guys to replace Ken Walker for a few weeks or even a month. But I wanted Walker out there. I wanted him to build experience. I wanted him to get opportunities. And if this hernia issue ends up being something real, which it sounds like it is, then he's not going to be out there for the rest of the preseason, and he's probably looking at missing, I've heard, like about a month of the regular season. We'll see where this goes. Hopefully we get more information later today. But if this is a real thing, then he's got to get on that table ASAP. We need to get this over with because this obviously sets him back a little bit. Luckily, he was able to do most of the training camp stuff, but this does set him back a little bit, a lot like it did with Penny. When Penny was a rookie here, he came in injured, and he wasn't able to practice or play for the first several weeks of his rookie year. And eventually he was able to get out there, and he was a little bit behind the eight ball, but he did come along quickly. He was fairly, not, I mean, obviously not immediately, but fairly quickly he was able to make meaningful contributions to that Seahawks team. But it still kind of resulted in that arrested development. So hopefully we avoid that. But if this is a real thing, then I just hope we get this taken care of as soon as possible so he can start playing as soon as possible. So those are the two major bullets from yesterday. We did get some good news. Rashad Penny's back. He was practicing. I think he had a 40-yard run at one point, which is great. Sidney Jones was back. Freddie Swain was back. Dwayne Eskridge is close. He's not going to play in this preseason game tomorrow. Excuse me. But he is going to have a real good chance to play in the last preseason game, and it sounds like he's on schedule for the last the first regular season game. And it seems like Gabe Jackson's close as well, so there was definitely some good news. And in light of the Drew Lock news, the fact that Geno looked so good yesterday is also good news, because just because I don't have high expectations for this season doesn't change the fact that I want to watch entertaining football at the least, and nothing's less entertaining than a team that has a completely inept quarterback. So if Geno can be competent It may not result in wins, but it will result in the games being more watchable. It'll make it easier for us to keep an eye on player development. And if he's the guy, then he's the guy. And honestly, he was probably the odds-on favorite to be the guy at the start of the season this whole time. So, not like that changes that much, and we'll see what he's got. All right, so that's about it. Kind of a tough day yesterday. Some people are starting to get a little bit antsy with the strength and conditioning coach, which has been a thing for years with this team. Um, Obviously, the minor injuries, the soft, sometimes they call them soft tissue issue injuries, starting to pile up, and people are saying, "Is it Ivan the Terrible?" I'd be interested to see how many injuries like this other teams have on average and compare it to us. It seems like we have a lot, but a lot of the time you actually look at the numbers and you find out it's not. So I'd be interested to see, do we actually have more injuries like this than other teams? Like last week, we were missing 10, 11 guys from that first preseason game with assorted bumps and bruises. And now we're getting some of them back, but we're getting guys like Ken Walker. Now, it's a hernia issue. I don't know if you can file that under the same category, but regardless of the exact details of these injuries, regardless of exactly how you can file it, then it's still becoming a thing where people are starting to look at our strength and conditioning and wondering if there's a problem. And I get it too. This stuff is definitely frustrating. Ken Walker's a player who didn't really have health issues in college, so if he starts having them now, much like Penny, people are going to start wondering. That's about it. I'll see you guys later today. Going to do the preseason game preview. See you then. Go Hawks.